Hello and welcome to Get Acclimated, part of the Altitude Sickness podcast. I am Tony, and this is part 4 of this little mini series that I'm doing where I just go over certain players that the Rockies have. Right now, it's just been pretty much the players that the Rockies have acquired via either trade or free agency in the offseason of 2026. And today we're going to be talking about Willi Castro, who is the latest signing that the Rockies have made. And so, again, if you don't know how this goes, I just kind of go through certain stats, pretty much all the 2025 stats that they had, and I'll go through a few things that I find interesting about them and give a little, and there's a projection. I use Fangraphs projections for 2026 and just seeing what we can expect from Willi Castro. And so without further ado, let's just get on into it. So to start, he is from Rio Piedras, Puerto Rico, and he was signed out of there as an international free agent by the Cleveland then Indians. And so that's cool. And for the Rockies, he signed a 2-year, $12.8 million deal, so $6.4 million AAV. So pretty low cost signing here for a guy for an older veteran player that the Rockies had. A similar deal last year was someone like Kyle Farmer, who, again, was kind of the older utility guy that they wanted to sign. I think things just didn't work out. He didn't play maybe up to the expectations. And there was also an opt-out, a team opt-out. And so they opted out of that contract, and they no longer have him on the team. And Willi Castro is now that guy. And so in terms of his 2025 stats, in 120 games, with 454 plate appearances. Again, this is across both he started the year with the Twins, and then he was traded to the Cubs at the trade deadline. He batted .226, .313, .336 for a .679 OPS, and he had 11 home runs with 33 RBI, a 92 weighted runs created plus, and a .5 FWAR. And so, overall, an okay slash line. He was a little bit below average by most metrics here. Didn't slug too much, and you'd like to see a OPS maybe above the 700s. But with him, I know he started the year pretty good with the Twins. He was a very solid hitter, and that's why he was traded and did not play well in Chicago down the stretch. I think he just had all it takes is a month of bad play, and it just tanks your stats. And I think that's a big thing that happened here with him. And so that's just a little bit unfortunate for him, but now the Rockies got him, and so hopefully he'll be able to find what he succeeded at with the Twins and be able to replicate that with the Rockies. And so the standout stats that I have for him here, he also had an 89 OPS plus as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's a similar stat, essentially just a league averaged stat for the OPS. So he was a little bit below average. You can look at that as 11% below average. And so, but all good. And so we've got the standout stats that I've got with him are his slugging percentage against cutters. And so specifically cutters, he was very good. So the cut fastball, which is just a type of two-seam fastball. He batted .500 with a 750 slugging percentage, a .563 weighted on base average, and a 47.6 hard hit percentage. So this dude crushed the cutter, which, if you're going to crush certain pitches, you might as well do it against some form of fastball, because a lot of pitchers usually throw these. And so that's, I think, a cool thing that he was able to hit the fastball pretty good, a certain type of fastball, again, pretty good. So that's good. Another standout stat I have is he's a versatile defender, which plays into the fact that he has a very strong arm. He's in the 86th percentile of arm strength, according to StatCast. And so, whether that be infield or outfield, that's obviously, especially being with the Rockies, if he's going to be playing the outfield, which I assume at some point he will be, he's going to need a strong arm to make long throws because of how big our outfield is. And so I think that's just a plus. And again, him being versatile, he plays most every position. He pretty much played every position except first, catcher, and pitcher, which I don't really count catcher and pitcher really in it, because unless you're a catcher, very few guys can go out and play multiple positions, including catcher, at a major league. level, and then the pitcher, obviously, that doesn't really count. So first base is really the only position that I find that he's never played in the major leagues. And so, I mean, that's why I think the Rockies went and got him. They wanted a true utility guy that can play anywhere at any point. That's what they're looking for here, and so they got that with this guy. And then on top of everything, he's also a switch hitter. I think that also will help him get more playing time with the Rockies, because he's going to be able to not just not just be able to play defense anywhere he goes, like anywhere you need him to go, but he also will be able to go against either righties or lefties because he's got that switch hitter ability, which obviously I think is just a bonus in every way. And so that's a pretty cool thing for him. And so I think the what the Rockies were looking for with him, they got pretty solid things with him. And so some other notes about him. So his defense, so speaking on that defense, unfortunately 2025, he was not that great in terms of defense. He had negative 9 outs above average, so not too great. He didn't have the best range, especially when it came into the outfield. Not the best. But looking back at his past years, he's normally pretty average to above average statistically for defense, and so hopefully he'll be able to replicate that. That's probably what the Rockies are banking on. And so, and again, I honestly don't know how much they will be playing him in the outfield, because if you think about it, Rockies already got like 9 outfielders. I don't really know how much Willi Castro is going to be playing in the outfield. I feel that he's more going to be a backup second baseman, third baseman, and shortstop when Tovar needs some rest. And so that's what I foresee him being. And I see this more of a signing. It's kind of like a mix between Orlando Arcia and Kyle Farmer. That's kind of how I see this from the 2025 season. And so wrapped into one where he can also switch hit and he has the ability to play the outfield. So I think that's pretty solid with him. And then in terms of base running, he's a pretty average base runner, nothing crazy. He has a little bit above average speed, but he had -1 base running value according to StatCast, and so not, I don't know how much he's going to really be losing us games on the base paths, but he's also not going to go out there and steal 30 bases, which is totally fine. Not really what you're signing him to do. That's kind of why you went and got Jake McCarthy, but that's another issue. That's another video. That does nothing to do with this. So, and then 2 things that I like to look at is his lefty-righty splits. I think that's pretty important when it comes to a hitter. And so versus lefties, he actually hit better against lefties. So against the lefty pitchers, he had a 752 OPS with a 120 OPS plus. That's pretty, I think, that's 20% better than the league average against lefties. That's pretty good. We like that, obviously. Especially, I'm pretty sure, because the Rockies, I don't think, they didn't good, in all fairness, their offense was not good against anybody, but I think they were pretty not good against lefties. And so that's good that you get this guy that can come in there and be a better lefty hitter. Against righties, it's a little worse. He's got a 654 OPS for a 93 OPS plus, so a little bit worse there. Not too bad, only 7% worse than league average, but you're really getting him for that lefty matchup probably. So, but again, with the switch hitter ability, that means in the middle of a game when a lefty starter comes in, is pitching, and then a righty reliever comes in, you don't got to take Willi Castro out. So to sub it out, you can just have him, flip to the other side. You don't need to sub him out for any reason. So, or for late in the game, he also is probably going to be. I wouldn't be shocked if he's used as a defensive substitution, just as someone that can play anywhere, and he'll be able to hit from either side depending on who's pitching. So that's pretty good for him. That's pretty helpful. And then projections for 2026. We've got, again, this is with Fangraphs. They're projecting him hitting 251, 325, 396 for a 722 OPS. So they expect a little bit better average, which in all fair, they are better offensive numbers, which again, I think that's fair with him going to be playing half his games at Coors Field, which we don't like hearing. That it gets old, but it is also just a fact. And so with 13 home runs, 61 RBI, and an 89 weighted runs created plus, so that's what they're projecting with a 1.4 FWAR, which I assume some will be, obviously, I think his improved defense that he'll be able to show. So that's what I think. Again, that's just what Fangraphs is projecting him to do, which, take all projections with a grain of salt, not really indicative of what they're going to be doing. for sure in the league or in for the Rockies in 2026, but we will see. But overall, again, I think this was a great signing for the Rockies. They needed they showed that they wanted another veteran utility guy, and I think Willi Castro has a little bit more upside than someone like a Kyle Farmer. And so I find this a pretty nice signing, and the switch hitter ability also is a really nice benefit. And so that's just a good things to have for a hitter. And another just little note, this came out today, is that he will be playing for Team Puerto Rico in the WBC. So that's pretty cool. I believe it is Team Puerto Rico. So that's pretty cool. So we got a little bit more Rockies representation on WBC rosters. As of now, I don't know if there are any other ones really. So if he's the only one, then that's how it be. But it's cool to get anybody, because I know back in the day we used to get a lot more, but right now with how lowly the Rockies are, getting anybody on those teams is a pretty cool sight. And so, but overall, that's kind of all I got with him. Again, I think just a solid signing for the Rockies. Didn't break the bank. I mean, you're only paying him $6.4 million, which is not, that's not a ton of money. And so, yeah, they could afford to do it, and I think this is just overall good signing here. So, but that's all I've got for him, and so I will see you all later. Thank you all for watching, and go Rockies.